Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Rosie here, and I play Dead by Daylight so you don't have to. Well, the shock's fucking worn off from just how fucking truly wretched the fucking patch was. My god. And the community's happy. That's what pisses me off. Everyone's really happy. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. These are such good changes. Yeah, Yeah. These are good changes if you fucking suck. If you fucking suck, they're good changes. But we've already talked about that, and there's no need to go over that again here. But it's that time. It's time to do that thing we always have to do again, lads. Because if you realize, we've been so focused on the fact that they just fucking totally fucking ruined the potential anti-heal meta that was about to happen before it even could fucking come out, that we didn't, at least on my fucking video, we didn't even stop to appreciate that they did not revert any of the fucking changes to the slowdown perks that they fucking gutted in exchange for the reversion of the fucking healing changes. They didn't do it. They gutted the new killer meta, and they gutted the new meta, what would have been the new meta, and did not revert the slowdowns at the same time. Call of Brine still nerfed, Overcharge still nerfed, Scorch Hook still nerfed. They did tweak it, but they still gutted our options. They are changing us without changing them. Survivors still get to keep their circle of healings, their 8-second heals, and like all their bullshit that procs the heals that makes hit and run completely trash and non-viable. They get to keep all that while we are stuck at square one. So let's do what we always fucking do. You know what's that? You know what that is? Let's fucking rebuild, reorganize, rebuild, fucking kill them anyway, fuckers. Kill them anyway. That's what we're gonna do. I'm going to refer to this era of the game as the bait and switch meta. That's what this is. Because you were baited to thinking it's an anti-heal, and they switched it on you at the last minute. This is the bait and switch meta, lads. They baited you, and then they switched it. So, let's get started. Let's talk about Killer's core. Thankfully, we have done some testing on what the potential anti-heal meta would be. And, thankfully, I think our core is safe, for the most part. For the most part, I think the core of anti-heal was relatively safe, with the exception of the actual anti-heal perk. The core foundation of Killer, this is why you were never going to see all that shit that people were worried about stacked, because that wasn't the core foundation of Killer. The 3 perks that are holding Killer together right now are as follows. 1, Corrupt Intervention. This is super fucking obvious to everybody that it's Corrupt Intervention. The early game is still mathematically in the fucking shitter. They just won't make it base. They will not address the early game in any way, shape, or form. It is still mathematically fucking broken for the survivors. So 9 out of 10 killers still need this perk to fucking slow the game down. Obviously, fucking some top tiers can get away with it, and various other specific setups can get away with it. Like high mobility killers, maybe they don't need it as much. Spirit doesn't need it. Nurse doesn't need it. Blight doesn't need it, etc. But these non-lethal, low mobility killers definitely still need this fucking perk. The bitch boys of the world, the shit slingers, the huntress, most killers in the game still rely on this perk to actually have a chance to fucking win the game. So, Corrupt Intervention still a necessary perk. Number 2, Deadlock. This is going to be your primary main slowdown option now that all the shit's gone. Deadlock's your perk. They can get you information about where to go next. It can tell you what potential progress other gens are around the map. Deadlock is it's really good for giving you information about what is done and what is not done. Where you need to go, where you might need to go, etc., etc. It can help you manage your time. The Deadlock is just really fucking good right now to be both your information and main slowdown perk. You still get the blockage for 30 seconds, but that's honestly like one of the lower tier things about the perk. The block is good, don't get me wrong, and the block helps it out. It gets you another 2 minutes of corrupt through other gens on the map, but just the overall map awareness that it provides is it's the best thing we have right now. Obviously, they can 99 a gen and counterplay it, but if the Swift beats everything, you have to accept the fact that this is going to be a weaker version of the killer meta than we've had in the past. Deadlock is just what you have right now. It's the best thing we got. And the best perk in the game right now for the killers is save the best for last. This perk is just essential for over half the roster to play. Obviously, very specific characters can drop it, like a bitch boy, a huntress. The top tiers don't need it, etc., etc. Well, some killers can drop this perk, but overall, this is the perk that's holding killer together right now. This is the perk that helps you execute the fucking metagame of Tunnel the Survivor off the fucking hook. It helps you become more lethal in chase because it can expand your dead zone radius outward. This perk is super important. Every killer every killer should be running it. Like, I'm serious. Unless your name is Nurse Blight or Spirit for the top tiers, or like a bitch boy doesn't necessarily need it. I would argue that some characters that people say you don't really need it on should still be running it. A Wesker, a Pyramid Head. Characters that incorporate any M1s into their game at all should fucking be running this perk. I feel like Bitch Boy is... Some of the projectile characters are an exception. Like, I don't really feel like Bitch Boy needs it, because Bitch Boy has to make room for Iron Maiden sometimes in some setups, so you don't really need it on him. And, Bitch Boy likes to get at least one of the hell states with his power, so you're not really using it to the best of its potential on him. But you can run it on him. It's just he doesn't really need it. Usually, you're running this on characters that need it to actually execute a successful camp game, and Bitch Boy kind of has a camp game, so he doesn't need it. Obviously, Bubba doesn't need it. So, but overall, on most characters in the game, these 3 perks are helping you do the meta. Okay. And the meta of the game is provide enough time for you to execute a tunnel on a survivor to get them out. Okay? That's the meta. That's the meta right now. And as long as the devs continue to fucking butcher the game until the devs forcefully rip this out of the game through a fucking base change that is super fucking horrible and horrendous, like you know they will do. Once they fucking once they have to go through and rip the mechanic out like it's a fucking cavity, until then, that's just what we're doing. Okay? Now, obviously, we have one slot, which is where Sloppy Butcher was originally going to go for the anti-healing meta. Now that Sloppy is pretty much fucking dead because of the anti-healing meta being, completely destroyed by these buffs to survive with friends. Again, you can beat babies with fucking anything, guys. So it doesn't really matter. We need to go through and talk about some other things that we could potentially be running, both in terms of a last slot in this build and on other characters as a whole. Okay? I'm not saying I'm going to, run all this stuff, but, here are some other options that we have, okay? Number 1, Bamboozle. Bubba's going to be using this, for sure. Bubba will be using this. Billy can use this. Bitch Boy can use this. Myers can use this. There are certain characters in the game that can use this. However, I really do think if you are running Bamboozle, you are not running Save the Best for Last. You cannot devote 2 slots to chase. That's bad perk design. You will not have enough... If you devote 2 slots to chase, you will not have enough time to tunnel the guy. Even with it. You just won't have enough time. The gens will fly. If you do not devote the corrupt, corrupt and deadlock, and if you run Save the Best for Last and Bamboozle, the gens will fly. You will not be able to execute the tunnel with enough time or efficiency to fucking get rid of it in a good team. But if you're Bubba and you don't need Save the Best for Last, you need to block those windows, Bamboozle is probably your best option. So keep that one in mind as you're picking builds for specific characters. Next, Discordance. This is a perk that was actually, I really do think it was meta a couple years ago. Then they nerfed the shit out of it because that's what they do to your meta. Whenever your meta happens, it gets gutted. However, looking at our very limited option pool here, 128 meters, the range is still actually pretty big, and we've lost most of our options to fucking beat it. So this is one of your stronger options again. You can find out where 2 people on a gen are hitting key gens. You can find out if they're hitting a wrong gen across the map, so you can get some added information on where people are. You can know when they're hitting a key gen. You can know where the prove thyself are to fucking interrupt those to help slow fucking gens down. You can run that. This could be your final slowdown option if you fucking want. Obviously, this is better on characters like maybe a Legion. You could run this on him, but just top tiers obviously can use it. Anybody can realistically use it. A higher mobility is preferred here, but the ability to go there and stuff out those prove thyself on these scrubs that are going to be in your matches is going to be very helpful for fucking stopping the gen rush. Just the ability to go interrupt these key gens, get in some chases, get some quick injures around the board. Going to get injured 2 people, get 2 stacks to save the best for last early game, that could be fucking huge, starting your pressure and expanding that pressure into the mid game. So do not sleep on Discordance. It can still be used. Next, Noed. If you're asking me what the meta is, what is the most effective tactic available, it is unfortunately probably No One Escapes Death. Likely has been for quite some time. But as your options continue to go away and the devs back you into a corner, they continue to just back you into a fucking corner, I predict there's less of a reason to not use Noed. They continue to rip your options from you, and basically, as our generator options get worse, teams will continue to fucking repair them faster and faster and faster. Combined with how Noed works now with the fucking aura reveal, they get a fucking aura reveal on the fucking totem now, right? 24 meters over the course of 30 seconds, they get that aura reveal. So now survivors just fucking ignore totems throughout the game because they get that aura reveal at the end of the game. So that means they're just, you're 9 games out of 10 realistically going to see Noed get procced. Especially because the boons are untouched and Circle of Healing is still going to be a massive threat in the hands of anybody who knows what they're fucking doing. Because you can still proc 8-second heals with Circle of Healing. 4 seconds if you heal 2 at once. So because that perk is still going to be fucking destructive in Survive with Friends, they're going to fucking leave those fucking totems up. Okay? So as they leave the totems up to make room for their fucking boons and fucking destroy you across the whole map because they're Survive with Friends, they'll get the gens done. This is a perk you can run to kind of maybe get a fucking 1 or a 2k. Fucking next, you got No Way Out. I hate this perk. I do hate this perk. Anybody that's in Discord knows I hate this perk. I don't like this perk. I don't know why y'all think it's so good. But as I just said with Noed, endgame, as the devs continue to rip your slowdown options out of the game, slowly but surely, every slowdown option is getting ripped out of the fucking game, because that's what they fucking do. You will see more and more teams complete the gens, meaning you might get more fucking value out of this fucking perk. And again, you might be able to turn a 0k into a 1 or a 2k, or a 2k into a win if you have No Way Out on board. So, if you're struggling to figure out what to do with the last slot, this might be an option that some people find good. And again, some people like this perk and claim it is good. I'm not one of them, but it's there. Next, Pop Goes the Weasel. Again, Pop was trash when we had better options in the game, like a Colubrine and the Scorchhook Pain Resonance, that were realistically better than it completely. However, now that they're starting to rip slowdown options out of the game again, we are losing the Colubrines, we're losing the Overcharges, we're losing the Scorchhook Pain Resonance. As we keep losing these things, on high mobility killers, Pop Goes the Weasel is still kind of an appealing option. As 20% of the current progression of the gen, I can't, like, sit here and give you math for every single fucking thing, but, like, if the generator is, like, 50% done, and you lose 20% of that, is that not, like, a Scorchhook Pain Resonance? Like, don't you lose a solid, like, what, 10% of your permanent progress? Like, don't you lose an Eruption or a fucking a Jolt? Like, don't you lose enough progress to, like, be in line with some of the other perks in the game? And then again, as the generators get almost done, you get a full pop, essentially. 20% plus the fucking 2.5, so it's not quite a full pop. But if you can get a hook, buy a generator with 4 pistons on it and strike it, and then execute that face camp, this can work with that, even low mobility killers. You can get a hook, find where they are, and then hook the guy near the almost completed gen, smack the gen with pop, and then face camp and watch it regress. Instant regression. You get that instant regression in the course of the second, and then your presence will be there, forcing them to either take the regression, as bad as base regression is, in the cock. They have to take it in the cock, or have to come in and get the fucking gen tap, which you might be able to fucking use that to get a stack, or say the best for last, or even a slug. So that can still do something for you. Next, Scorchhook Pain Resonance. They are going back on the nerf a little bit. They changed its numbers to where it blows up 25% of the gen's progress. That is a full Pop Goes the Weasel. You only have access to the fucking perk 4 times a fucking match, okay? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this perk is meta. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's good, or even good. But what I am going to tell you is that 25% regression on a generator is very, very tempting. It's very, very, very tempting to fucking utilize. If you can, like, combine it with like, maybe you run like a deadlock pop build. Maybe you run like a deadlock pop build if you use or I don't know, even something else, which we'll get down to, like maybe you run an information perk or two, like Discordance, to figure out where they might be or some shit. You want to pop with the Discordance, pop this perk, and then save the best for last or some shit. I don't fucking know. The point is there's enough synergy there to where if you can combine this 25% regression with Pop Goes the Weasel's additional, like, 15% regression, or even some other perks like a Jolt, if you can fucking delete or a Jolt or an Eruption, which we'll get to in a minute, if you can combine that fucking 25% with the other perks in the game, you might be able to save key gens in key situations. That could save you. And again, I'm not going to, again, it's a Scorch Hook, so it's RNG. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be the most consistent option you have, or the best option you have. What I am going to tell you is 25% of the gen. If you're on a top tier or something, or if you're just on a top tier or in pubs, I think this is still good enough to potentially beat people. Again, I'm just noting it here. It could still be bad, and then you could just take it out if you're not finding it. But that number's tempting again. Even if you get that 4 times a game, that might be able to fucking save you. You complete, like, you complete a tunnel, and then you get one hook, it blows up, and then you can save almost half a gen if you can get a play with this. So it's tempting to still maybe utilize it just a little bit. Next, Sloppy Butcher. I thought I would mention it here because we're talking about just playing the fucking game. We're talking about just playing the game. If you get a meta Swift, barely any of this is going to work. We've talked about the endgame builds that are probably the best option you have to beat Swift, which are, like, again, at least one endgame perk is probably how you beat Swift. However, if you can, like, it's because not every fucking team you play is a meta team. I know this is something y'all don't want to hear. It's something I don't even want to tell you. If you, like, the fact that the healing changes will still affect solo queue babies means that some characters will unfortunately get hit and run value. You can run a Wraith at, like, mid-high MMR and still do things. Because of the fact that solo queue babies healing with their med kits in the corner of the map, you will still be able to get them and down them. So, as unfortunate as it is, and as useless as the perk lightly is against Survive with Friends, you can probably have success with it against probably about half the groups that you play against. So, that's an option still. Next, Scorch Hook Gift of Pain. This is another one I don't really have much faith in, but I thought I would at least mention it. Because the fucking Scorch Hooks are there in the map, you get a Hemorrhage, which is still bad, and you get the Hemorrhage and the Mangle, which is bad, but once they get healed, they have a 16% generator repair penalty. That's not nothing. That is not nothing. Stack that with a Pentimento or a Thanatophobia, you might be able to, or even a Dying Light, which again, we'll get to all these perks. This could do something. Again, I don't think it's going to be meta, but, like, when you're reading, like, when you are going through the killer perks on the fucking site, like I just was before I made this video, right before I made this video, I skimmed the killer perks. This is one of the better options in the game now. It just is. It provides some anti-heal as well as anti-gen. This is one of the better options in the game now. Gonna be meta? Probably not. Gonna beat Swift? Probably not. But it's there. It can do something. Again, you can probably beat most bad teams with it. These next fucking perks, I wanted to separate them from these perks because I feel like these perks, again, with the exception of some of them, I guess I could have moved some of them down. But these are perks that I probably am going to avoid. Okay? But again, I could have put No Way Out in there. This is something I kind of rushed, obviously. So, these are perks that I am going to avoid, but they do have some synergy with some of the stuff up here. So, it's like, you could run them and get away with it against fucking teams. Okay, you can get away with it and win matches with them. So, the first one, Barbecue Chili. You got the Pop Goes the Weasel synergy. If you can get some consistent pops with mid to low mobility killers, fucking Barbecue can do something for you. Next, Thanatophobia. Like I said, you can stack it with a Gift of Pain or stack it with a Pentimento or something like that. It's not good. Plague can still use it. Obviously, Plague and Legion are better than anybody else. Legion and Plague will probably still use it. Twins can probably hope to God that they can run it and do something with it. But, well, it doesn't affect healing anymore. Never fucking mind. But, you know, so Thana is still an option combined with the right shit. Spirit Fury Enduring, this is something people are talking about again. I'm not running this shit, and I'll tell you why. I think Scoot said it might be good. Scoot, John, hey guys, Scott here. Spirit Fury Enduring is going to be good in the bait and switch meta because it's just really good, bro. It's just a really good option for you guys. It's a 2-perk combo. Like we discussed earlier, 2-perk combos in Chase are not really worth it. If you are chasing somebody with Spirit Fury Enduring, okay, you are still being looped. You are still already playing into their hands. If you run Save the Best for Last, you can down them before they get to the fucking pallet, which is better than fucking in the pallet in your face and being stunned, and then you have to kick 2 of them to fucking set the fucking bullshit up. And at a top level, it's also still countered by pre-drops, and they'll especially be able to communicate that to their fucking team that you have it, and then they'll never stun you as soon as they see that they have it. I think Spirit Fury Enduring is still fucking trash, but again, we're not really, again, we're kind of like half analyzing for top level, half analyzing for pubs. So you might be able to get value out of it in basic pub matches, just like you will lose to like even worse teams than some of the other options if you have that shit. 2-perk combos for Chase, never worth it. Next, Call of Brine Overcharge. I'm not going to run this shit, and I'll tell you why. The best play with Call of Brine Overcharge now, especially before, you could just kind of whack it and leave. Because the numbers aren't that good anymore, you can't really whack it and leave and expect to get the same results anymore. Making Call of Brine and Overcharge, the best thing that they can do is the same thing that Pop Goes the Weasel does, which is fucking camp the guy and watch the gen progress that way. You would rather have Pop's fucking instant detonation than just fucking slowly wait for these fucking 2 perks to do something over time now. But right now, when Call of Brine has ruin numbers, yeah, Call of Brine is better right now. But as soon as the fucking nerf goes in, you'd rather have Pop just instantly delete a little bit. Because realistically, when Call of Brine and Overcharge get fucking touched by the fucking good team, they will have deleted just as much as Pop at best. So just fucking run Pop. There's nothing that they can do that Pop can't. And Pop can also do more because that instant detonation is going to be better now. It just is. The instant detonation will be better now. Speaking of instant detonation, Jolt and Eruption is something you might be tempted to run. Again, if you can, like we were talking about with the Scorch Hook, if you can trigger an Eruption and then a Scorch Hook Pain Resonance, and then maybe, I don't even have this perk here, but maybe even a Dead Man Switch or something, like you can like delete, like you can delete like a solid chunk of the gen off of the Scorch Hook Pain Resonance play. However, I don't think Jolt and Eruption are good enough. I just don't. Eruption, you have to stop and kick shit, and Jolt's in a 32-meter range. So it's just I don't like that. I don't like that anymore. They're not good enough. Eruption does not stop them from progressing the gens anymore. I just don't think they're good. They can certainly, they have enough synergy to help you beat babies, but that's about it. Against good teams, Eruption has always been a bad perk, and Jolt I just straight up don't think is good. So I don't think those 2 perks are worth it. Next, Dying Light. I only have this here because when the anti-heal meta was a thing, it was very... Dying Light came up in conversation just a little bit about how it could be a little bit less win more, and you could still stack it with things like Fana and Pentimento and Scorch Hook, Gift of Pain. However, because anti-healing is dead, there's absolutely no reason to run him. Dying Light is trash. Brutal Strength, again, it's just not good enough. Save the Best, like, you don't want to be at that pallet. You just don't want it down. Use Bamboozle to trigger dead zones. Use fucking Save the Best for Last to just trigger dead zones. You don't really, like, if Brutal Strength and Spirit Fury Enduring both have the same problem. The pallet is down, you already lost the interaction. That's the issue. So you don't really want it. And then the final thing I'm going to say, Pentimento Plaything. Pentimento Plaything, Fana, Dying Light, Scorch Hook, Gift of Pain, all that fucking crap. Just that fucking synergy. It's there. You can probably beat babies with it, but the ceiling is very apparent to me. So those perks you could get away with in some very, very, very specific setups, but overall, I think those perks right there should likely be avoided. There are some things up here I personally wouldn't run, but overall, this is your core. The core is Corrupt, deadlock, and save the best for last on 90% of characters. Obviously, like, use discretion if you don't think you need this on this character. Like, obviously, incorporate your own skill into it. Like, maybe you don't need save the best for last on an artist because half your hits are coming from your birds. Whereas somebody like me, I'd still use save the best for last on artists because I don't play her enough. It's just like factor that stuff in when you're playing specific killers, etc., etc. So this is it, lads. This is fucking bait and switch meta. And then all of this stuff is coming together to execute a tunnel, and then you go into the late game and defend the gens manually that way. So that aspect of the meta has not changed. However, the perks that fucking are helping you do it have been altered slightly. So this is a new meta for Dead by Daylight, even though you're trying to execute the same thing. That is why I will be referring to this period as the bait and switch meta, because the devs fucking bait and switched you. But I think you shouldn't be sticking too far away from these specific setups. If you're running something that's out of this area, you're stupid. It's that fucking simple. Or you're just low MMR trash like Ryuga is. Alright, lads, I'm getting the hell out of here. GG's.